Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have the next video for you in the French line, the Tier VII AMX AC-46 tank destroyer. As always, we will have a look at the full tech spec using blitzhanger.com, which is a great asset and resource for all Blitzers, so I recommend that you use it. Now this is a good TD, and it's much better than the Tier VI, the ARL-V, because it's much improved. I mean, it has better armor, etc., and we'll have a look at that in the gameplay. You can use Cam Pate, gives you better view range if you like. It also gives you faster reload, but you can also use protective kit. It depends. There are two gun types, 90mm and 100mm top gun, both good options. 90mm better DPM, 100mm gives you more pen, 202mm versus 170mm on a normal, and you'll need that if you're up tiered. You get 255mm of pen with the APC or 260 DPM versus 310 on your normal AP rounds. HE gives you 50mm of pen and 350 plus DP. Now I said that I would recommend using a 100mm gun purely in case you're up tiered, because that extra pen is required if you're up tiered, because you're going to be up against some big heavily armored tanks like the IS-3, IS-5, etc. Muzzle velocity is 1000 meters per second. You can get it up to 1300 meters per second with supercharge, and that goes up to 1625 on APC or if you're using supercharge, which is really impressive. Very good for a Tier 7 TD. Even with a 100mm gun, you get 6.5 second reload, which is really good. It's very effective, particularly if you're brawling or if you've got multiple target environment where you want to really farm damage. Especially if you drop adrenaline, you can really do a lot of damage with this tank. You have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is better than its predecessor, and 15 degrees of elevation. 10 degrees of gun depression is good because you have good frontal armor, so you can go hold down on this tank. The top of the tank is actually very strong, and we're going to have a look at that in gameplay too. It's also fast. It does 50 kilometers per hour forward, 12 in reverse, so it gets around the map. Has a decent power to weight ratio, not as good as its predecessor, but it's pretty good, and the tank can move around the map really well. You're going to see that in the gameplay that we have a look at too. And the concealment numbers are good when you're inactive, but if you fire, you lose 40 meters of concealment, that is, versus the view range of enemy tanks, so just be aware of that. When you're firing, you're going to become much more visible, so make sure you're in a good concealed position behind soft cover, or ideally can roll back into hard cover. Now we can see here, as we said, the front of the tank, you have much better armor profile than its predecessor, significantly better, and this allows this tank to be more aggressive. You can go front line in this tank if you are top tier. You can see here just how tough the armor is at the front, and this gives this tank a lot more dynamism and a lot more flexibility in its gameplay than you would have had with its predecessor. And you can see in the gameplay that we're going to have a look at, you can bounce shots on this with your front on, and because it has very good traverse, very good movement, you can keep yourself front on even when you're brawling. And with that rate of fire, this is a very, very good brawler of a tank, and you will get bounces of it. Particularly if you're top tier, you can really almost bully your way forward in this tank. You can see the sides and back, you don't have much armor, right? You can, with lower caliber guns, side scrape, but at the rear and the back you're very vulnerable. Now looking here, we can see front on. If you're top tier, just look at that. It is really difficult to pen against your own tier also, but even against tier 8s you're going to get some bounces, you know. Unless you're up against a really big tier 8 gun, you're going to get bounces front on, but at the sides and back you're really vulnerable. Therefore I would run 2 repair kits, because if you're moving in this tank, you do not want to get caught out in the open. At Tier 7 and Tier 8 we have ISU 152s, SU 152s, Rim Borsigs, etc. All of those can one-shot you with HE rounds into the side or back, so really need to be careful. Do not get permatracked out in the open, so I would recommend running 2 repair kits rather than taking Angel Accelerator, etc. In terms of tactics, if you are top tier in this tank, you can go front line. You can also follow your meds and support them. But when you are new with the tank, I would recommend that you just sit back, play a typical traditional TD role. Now let's have a look at the layout in game. You can see I'm using two repair kits, as I said, and the adrenaline. I'm running canned pate, and I'm also running protective kit. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that. I mean, really, The view range is not so important, so you can also not run can pate if you would prefer not to, and you can use, for example, one of the other consumables. I mean, sorry, one of the other provisions. It's really up to you in terms of your gameplay. Ideally, you want to stay safe in this tank, so you know, maybe protective kit is also an option for you. In terms of armor loadout, I go a lot more armor piercing. I have a few pramo in case I'm up tiered, and then I run the rest in HE in case I come across something lightly armored like a Rim Borsig or Stuart Emil from behind, something like that. In terms of the equipment, you can run gun rammer if you want to have a better reload, if you want to get that down to 6.5 seconds. You can use calibrated shells too. It depends on your game style. I usually use gun rammer because I like to have more rounds per minute, and I use supercharge to get the velocity up, because the velocity also impacts and determines your ability to pen. And I use camo net as well because it's a TD. I use engine accelerator. I usually use refined guns on TDs because I'm not firing when I'm moving usually. I usually use toolkit as well. But you know, some of the essentials are, when you're using a TD, or to use the camo net, right, and use supercharge and refined gun. The rest, it's kind of up to you. I'm using enhanced armor rather than approved assembly because this has very good armor, and I think enhancing that, if you get one bounce, then it's better than having the additional hit points, right? So you get one extra bounce, right? So simple mathematics. But these are just my preferences. Now I want to show you this game because there's two aspects of this game. Firstly, it really shows the frontal armor of this tank in play and how good it can be and how effective it can be, particularly when you're top tier as I am in this game. But there's another aspect of this game I want to show you. Forget about the lag I had there at the start. I don't know what happened. Sometimes this happens. You do that at the start and then it corrects itself and the game plays fine. But I play this game. It's a game of two halves, if I can use that old football pun. I play appallingly badly in the first half of this game. I do 0 damage and I lose like 70% of my hit points. And you can see here, I fluff shots, I take damage, I really do nothing. And in terms of what I mean by bad gameplay is, I mean, it doesn't mean that I necessarily have to play well myself, but I should be contributing towards my team, right? I mean, that's my view of good play. It is a team game. You win or lose as a team, and if you're not contributing positively to your team, then I think you're playing badly, and I play really badly here to start, right? I fluff my shots. I've lost, you know, 66%, 2/3 of my hit points. I've done absolutely nothing. I've done no damage, and I blocked one small caliber round, 160 DP. But in the end of this game, I'm going to carry this game. I'm going to end up with a by the way, I'm still in my playing badly phase here. I totally fluffed that shot on the KV2. But from here on in, I decide to change my gameplay, concentrate a bit harder, and I actually end up making a really good contribution and carrying the game a bit for my team. First positive action I've done is I've captured B, so that gives us an advantage. And now I'm going to move and play to the strengths of this tank. So I'm going to push on into the enemy. We are 5 tanks each, so it's not a complete disaster yet, but we've just lost another tank, so we're tank down now. And I'm just going to decide that I'm going to push on to the enemy. What I want to do is I want to bring the fight to the enemy, but I also want to get into a position where I'm kind of hull down. I know it doesn't have a hull, but you know what I mean. I want to protect the vulnerable lower plate, put up my frontal armor, and I want to bring my gun into action. Now you can see we are now 2.5 minutes into this game, and I've done absolutely nothing except capture that base. I mean, I've done nothing. 0 contribution to my team except for the base capture. But from here on in, it changes, and from here on in, I actually do a bit of a carry. And this is kind of important, and I mean, we'll talk about specifically this tank in a second, and you're going to see when I'm in this position here where only the top of this tank is exposed, I'm going to bounce a ton of damage now. And you also see how maneuverable the tank is and how much damage I can do with this gun while also bouncing shots. But in terms of the game itself, and this goes for all, we're 5-2 down now, so we're in real trouble. This goes for all games. The opera's not over till the fat lady sings, if I can coin that old phrase, right? And no matter how badly you start the game, you can still play well and still carry the game for your team. It's exactly what I do here. I had an appalling start to this game. I really was awful. I didn't do anything, but I persisted, concentrated, and then started to play again to the strengths of my tank. And you can see now I have cleared it off. It's only 3-2 now. Now I know the KV-1S is slow, so what I need to do is I need to face up to the enemy coming behind me and hope I can clear them off before the KV-1S can push up behind me, because I'm one shot for him. And that's exactly what I do. He decided to come, but he came too slowly. Now I'm facing onto him again, and now it's back in my favor. He also knows I'm a one shot. He's a one shot for me, just as I am for him. And now he's reluctant. He bounces a shot. Now I push on, because I know even though he's got a smaller gun, he's got a longer reload. Push onto him, and there we go. And there you go. I know that was kind of a clubbing off, even though I didn't get a clubbing off medicine, because I have no idea what my teammate was doing. So there we go. So we went from doing 0 damage and making no contribution to the team whatsoever to winning the most XP, getting a Radley Walters medal, and carrying the game for the team in the end. So and that's kind of, so apart from the fact that it shows the strengths of this tank when you get it into the right position, and how effective the gun, the DPM can be, you know, and how you can use that armor to get the steel wall. And I delivered the Radley Walter medal, Top Gun, etc. So I went from 0 to hero, really. So apart from showing the strengths of this tank when it's in the right position and when you play to its strengths by keeping your armor facing the enemy, it also shows it's some general gameplay and how you can influence the game at any time. And you don't have to play well for a whole game to do a good game. And it's a good illustration. So even if you have an appalling start, you lose all of your hit points, don't give up. The opera's not over till that fat lady sings. Stay in the game, concentrate, play to the tanks that you're playing, play to its strengths, and you can carry the day in the end, or at least contribute to your team winning. Now we're going to have a look at a Supremacy game here, which I think is a mastery game, and it is on Winter and Malankova. So again, as I am top tier, I decided to push on, and I'm going to go for a B. I'm going to use the strength of my tank, which is its frontal armor, its mobility, and the fact that it has this big powerful gun with good DPM, good reload, to intimidate the enemy, to get up there and to do some damage, spot them up, and capture a base. So overall, just I'm contributing towards my team's overall ability to win this game right from the start. So a very different game to the previous game we looked at, where for the first 2.5 minutes I was doing absolutely bugger all. Here we are, fluff that shot. I'm going to roll back. I don't want this guy coming front onto me, so I'm going to roll back and reposition. Now we've already captured a base, so this is good. I see the Lycan moving up. I'm going to check out. I'm going to see if I can push onto him. It seems I can. So I'm going to push onto the Lycan. The Lycan is notoriously difficult to pen. Front on, it's extremely difficult if you remember the review, but also its side armor is very good too. I'm going to push on. Luckily for me, he's just taking a shot, so that means I know what the Lycan's reload speed is. I know that I am significantly better on the reload, and I'm able to take him out, clear him off. And we're still tanked down, but we've taken out one of their better tanks, the very powerful Lycan, which is a great heavy tank. Now I decide to go and help my allies at A. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. One, my team are capturing, the enemy are capturing A. And secondly, that Panther 2, I think, is a stronger tank than we have at A. Sorry, by the way, I said I was top tier in this. I'm not actually, because as you see, there's a couple of tier 8s in this. So I'm just going to push on here because I believe that with my gun I can intimidate this Panther too. I'm hoping that some of my allies will come and help me. They are reluctant to do so, it seems, but nonetheless I'm going to stand my ground. I thought I might bounce that shot, didn't, so but I'm going to take the fight to him. I know he's reloading, so I'm going to take the fight to him, smash one into him, roll again, see if I can get my armor working towards me. No, but he's pushing on. Now I'm going to push on to him with my reload, and then it's game over because my big gun is going to pen this guy. And now it's safe to capture, and now we're 4-3, so we went from being a tank down to a tank up. And I'm also going to see maybe I can put some damage in here on the Reds as they move across towards C. I'm going to rely on my allies up at C to see if they can spot them up for us. So what I do is I'm going to take a sniping position at the top of this hill and see if I can bring my gun to bear, and yes we can. And a nice shot there into the glacial. Allows my allies then to clear him off. He's a nice easy one shot, and now we're going to move up to support them. This game is different to the previous game in that I decided to be very aggressive in this game. I pushed, you can see I moved all around the map. We can also see that I fluffed this first shot here, but I have really good reload. The reload in this tank is really good, and the ISU 152 has a really long reload, so it allows me to clear him off. So there we go, 3 kills and 2.2k of damage, 2 bases captured, etc. That delivers the mastery badge. I've done a lot higher damage in this tank and not delivered a mastery badge, but mastery badges are all about XP, as we said. So the spotting I did at the start, capturing B and capturing A, and all of the active movements moving around the map, all made considerable contributions toward my team winning, and that's why the mastery badge was delivered by the XP. Not much else happened in that, just a mastery badge. Far more badges were delivered in the previous game, but you can see that in terms of XP I kind of carried the game, and also because I was up tiered you got a bit of extra brownie points because you took out a higher tier with the Panther too. So let's have a recap on this tank. It's a good TD, it's much better than the tier 6, which a lot of people struggle with. It can be a very difficult tank to play, but not this one. This one is a lot more balanced. Has this really good frontal armor. You will bounce shots in it. You saw in the first game, particularly if you can hide a lower plate. It's agile and mobile, as you saw. It gets around the map really well. You saw that in both of those games. 90mm gun or 100mm gun are both good. The 100mm gun though is better if you're up tiers. You will need that extra pen. 1300 meters per second muzzle velocity on AP and HE. You get higher with APCR, and that of course if you use supercharge. You get 10 degrees gun depression, which is really good, and it's a big improvement on the previous tier. Sides and back are very vulnerable though, so you have the frontal armor but you don't have anything else. You're going to be a HE magnet for those big guns up at tier 7 and tier 8, so therefore run the 2 repair kits. You don't want to get Kai out in the open, you don't want to get permatracting this thing out in the open, believe me, especially if you're up tiered as a Rim Borsig or something in your team. Play safe at the start, play as a traditional TD, but then when you get more comfortable with the tank you can be more adventurous, as I was in those games. The music was Sancien, Danse Macabre, which is a beautiful piece of music, and Offenbach's Orpheus in the Underworld, where the can-can comes from, and it is the music to which Orpheus danced with his wife in the underworld. So, by the way, the whole that whole piece of music from Offenbach is amazing if you want to check it out. So cheers Mush, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you found it useful, and I guess all that remains for me to say is, pants off.